Hey everyone, welcome to another NHD topic tip. Today we're going to be focusing on the question of, can I do an ancient history topic for NHD? And the answer is yes. NHD does not restrict topic to geographical location or time period. We want you to find a topic that you're really interested in and that you actually want to research. Now that being said, always check with your teacher. Sometimes teachers have their own parameters of different topics that they'd like you to research in the classroom, especially as it relates to if you're learning US history or maybe World Civ, right? So always check with your teacher first before you make that topic selection. Today we're going to focus on where should we start if we want to look for ancient history topics, whether it's geographical places we can look, and where might we find good collections full of primary sources that can help us do an NHD project on ancient history topics. So I'm going to give you a really big and important tip. In the late 1700s, in the 1800s, and into the 1900s, the British and the French and a lot of other European countries went crazy for ancient history. Stories of Napoleon finding the Rosetta Stone and the British collecting mummies and other artifacts from ancient Egypt. They went to do archaeological digs in places like Turkey and over to Central and South America to look into the culture of the ancient Maya. Don't discount those museums, such as the British Museum or the National Museum of France. They house a lot in their collections that relate to different ancient civilizations. Now, keep in mind also, a lot of those countries have started to request that the British and the French and other Europeans send back those artifacts as they are part of the nation's history, and some of the museums have chosen to do so. So you can kind of trace where different artifacts have ended up. But we're going to focus on a couple of different places that have really good collections to get you started. And the first one we want to focus on is the National Museums of Scotland. So we're going to head over to the National Museums of Scotland and see what they have for getting started on your NHD project for an ancient history topic. All right, so if we head over to nms.ac.uk, that's the landing page for the National Museums of Scotland, we can track down what they have on world cultures, specifically their ancient Egyptian collection. So in their ancient Egyptian collection, we can see the 6,000 items that they have that relate specifically to ancient Egypt. We even have the option to do a gallery tour that will take us through and have the curators explain different pieces that they have in the collection, since many of us probably can't go to Scotland. So it gives you these different options and you'll be able to see the different objects that are available. Now, when it comes to doing ancient history, your primary sources are going to look a little different from, say, someone who's doing the 19th century in the United States or even the 20th century, right? You're going to see a lot more of different writing styles, whether it's hieroglyphs or cuneiform, or you might also see a lot more in terms of statues or art. There's nothing wrong with those. Those are actually really great primary sources to use in your NHD project. Your primary sources are just going to look a little different from someone who's doing European or United States or even more modern day Asian history. There's nothing wrong with that. So keep that in mind that you may have a lot more objects as primary sources than someone else would. We have this one really great source, but where are some other really great places to start our research into ancient history topics? So remember I said the British went a little crazy for ancient history? Well, the British Museum has a ton of collections relating to different topics, including ancient Egypt, the Roman Empire, and ancient Greece, along with others including Mesopotamia and ancient Persia. So the British Museum is a really great place to start as well. They've also developed an interactive online museum called the Museum of the World, and we're going to head over and check it out, and I'm going to show you what this museum can do, especially as they partnered with Google to set it up. So we're going to head over to britishmuseum.withgoogle.com, and this is where you're going to get the Museum of the World, and it works a little differently than other online museums you may have seen. So it is completely interactive and it is set up by geographical location. So if you're interested in ancient Africa, ancient Asia, the Americas, which would include Central and South America, Europe, or Oceania, you have that option to specifically focus on those colors. Yellow goes to Africa, this orange color goes to the Americas, so on and so forth. But what's also really great is you have the option to select it by what different topics you might be interested in. Maybe you're interested in religion and beliefs of ancient cultures. Maybe you're interested in trade and conflict. So you can kind of go ahead and click on that, and what it does is it pulls all of the information specifically related to those topics so that's what you can see. So it looks like we have different objects relating to, Asia. So what you can do is if you click on those little dots, it highlights and connects to different primary sources that are available at the British Museum and helps you make connections to them. So we're gonna go ahead and click on this one. So this is part of Tibetan culture, okay? And this is early form of Tibetan paper money, and it's been issued. And what's really interesting is you can go ahead and zoom on that so you can get a really nice image of early Tibetan money. So that's what's really great about the Museum of the World, is it lets you get up close on those primary sources that might help you as you're doing research into different ancient history topics. So I've now showed you two really great places to start your research in both Scotland and Britain. But what about the United States? Well, we have some options too. So we have the Getty Museum, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the Penn Museum, and we have access to Google Arts and Culture. So we're going to explore those places really quickly to see what they have to help us pinpoint other really good places to start that may be available to us living in the United States. All right, the first up is the Penn Museum. So it's based in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and this one focuses on their Rome gallery. And it gives that nice overview, but it also points out to the different pieces that they have in their collection, and even gives you the option to take a virtual tour. But say you're not interested in Rome, say you're interested in Mesopotamia. Well, if we head over to the Getty Museum, getty.edu, we can check out what they have on ancient Mesopotamia. So we can see the first writings from Mesopotamia, and we can also see the other objects and learn more about what life was like in ancient Mesopotamia. We also have the option to check out ancient Greece. If we head over to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, also known as the Met, which is based in New York City, New York, we can check out what they have. A lot of ancient history materials are categorized as art pieces, whether they're vases, jugs, and other pieces like that. We count those as art, but they can be used in an NHD project. They're not just art pieces, they're also historical objects, and they also count as primary sources. And so here we have the option to see what types of ancient Greek art are available to us. Remember when I showed you that Tibetan money? Well, we now have and can see ancient Greek money. Obviously, the Tibetan money was paper. This one is made out of actual silver. So we can see different objects across the board and how they relate to those different ancient cultures. And the last one, and probably one of the biggest as it grows daily, is Google Arts and Culture. If you haven't used Google Arts and Culture, I highly recommend it. It gives you access to virtual exhibits or even virtual tours that are available for museums that you might not be able to visit, such as the Louvre, the British Museum, and other museums available in the United States. So you can check this out on your phone. They also have an app, but it gives really great options. And we're actually going to be using materials from Google Arts and Culture as we work through an ancient history topic right now. Let's start by doing an ancient history example. I want to focus on the politics of the ancient Maya as my topic. So I might be able to look into places such as Palenque in Mexico, which was part of the Mayan Empire, or I might look at Chichen Itza, which was also part of Mayan culture. So like us, the Maya had their own language and they had their own written word. Now we write in English, but the Maya had hieroglyphs, which they wrote in and they used to record what they found to be important information. But what we have to keep in mind is that what the Maya chose to write about might be different than what we choose to write about or what we choose to record for prosperity. So keeping that in mind, what historians have discovered is that Maya writing really focused on propaganda. It was pushed out by the Mayan ruler at the time in order to legitimize that person's rule and to legitimize their power and to really push their politics through. A lot of what we're going to see when it comes to Maya writing has to do with propaganda and making sure that that Maya king is always shown in the best light. And that's really important because now I know how I can apply my primary sources to my topic of politics in the ancient Maya. I know that I can focus on the writings and other art created to see how those politics translated and what that Maya king wanted his subjects to know. So I might look at things like the Fenton vase, which was a Maya vase that was discovered on an archaeological dig done by British archaeologists. So we have this vase, but if we were to get a better view of it, we see that this rollout photo of the Fenton vase shows us a depiction. And in the middle, we have the king in his full headdress, and the others here are kneeling. They're paying him tribute. And of course, we also have a scribe taking down the important information, right? The idea here being that we can learn about king's expectations, what he thought the people should do. So what do you notice when you look at this vase and what it's depicting? Do we see how subjects were supposed to interact with their king? How do we expect the king to be shown? These are all questions that we can ask when it comes to it. How does this tell us more about Maya politics and what the subjects were supposed to do, what the role of the king was? But I might also look at other objects. The Maya were obsessed with etching things into jade, and this is just one example of that. This is a jade plaque of a Maya king, and on it, it has this depiction of the king. Here is a hieroglyph signaling the jaguar god, a very important god in Maya culture, and the connections and allusions to that particular god and how the king used the gods to legitimize his reign. So how does religion then play into politics in the Maya culture? And why is that important? What does that help us to understand? And what would the average everyday Maya who was looking at something like this supposed to figure out from it? So these are just great places to start. Hopefully you'll find an ancient history topic that really inspires you to do more research and find out what we know or maybe discover more about ancient history.